Instead, some incentive for the parents regarding these mentions is that first they care about the fulfillment of their child. They want to empathize with their child. They want them to enjoy life, have good jobs, have good social circles. Second, they want to have a survivability of themselves and also their child, so the child can hold on their own. They want them to succeed, and by doing that, they invest a lot of survival means like in money investment to their educations, to their skills upgrading, or even to have the good environment for their children. But I like to argue that the parents and also even the kid themselves has another incentive, and it's regarding economic stability. Why is it relevant, or even or even the child or parents have that incentive in the first place? Because you need money to live, right? Even if you have enough money to support your livelihoods, just keeping it at the bare minimum would still hold you at much risk. But the board team states that the financial limits only apply to average Joe, and since the child is a prodigy, they don't have the financial limit. I want to argue against that fact that it does not true that just because you're prodigy, you are free from the financial limits in the non-lucrative field. Why? Because first of all, in the lucrative field, they have this uh, bureaucratic systems that prioritize seniority and time in great rules over individual talents. So even if you are a prodigy at something, it doesn't really guarantee you um, on the spot that you will work with a high paying job, or even immediately got a high positions, because the non-lucrative field is funded by government, which of course have its limits. It's not a private really a much money field or sector, so the fund for each organization, each goal, each position is limited, and because of that, um, people relies more on networking and social connections. So time spent on networking and attending high society events are much more matters than the time spent at practicing the craft. And also not to mention, because of the high seniority, the senior figures may suppress the younger newcoming, even younger prodigies, to stall peer, or if they also stall peer reviews, they also claim credit for collaborative work to ensure their own funding survives. Why would they want to do that in the first place? Because of they want to get recognition in the lucrative field. It's really hard to maintain yourself if you don't really have this reputation, this broad social connection. So the senior figures and the elites would want to keep the connection being available to them and not to their competitors, which can make them gatekeeping. Like established elites use nepotism to distribute the remaining funds to their friends and to their own people, which locking outsiders out. Not to mention, because it again relies on government budgets. The non-lucrative field limits the number of positions they can find. So just because you are a prodigy doesn't mean that you automatically got a good high-paying job on that field. And once because if someone already secures a role, they often stays for decades, so leaving very few openings for newcomers. And because far more people graduate with creative and humanities degree, there are more it will create a competition, a fierce competition for even entry level spots if the prodigies cannot get the high position jobs and try to go into the level but there's also the overqualification paradox, where hiring managers often reject highly exceptional candidates out of fear they will become bored, demand too much autonomy, or quickly abandon the role for better opportunities. So we already established that because you're a prodigy doesn't mean that you are free from financial limitations, that you are immediately getting a high high paying job, which leave you at the standard minimum wage for the non-lucrative field, which is low, right? It's not as high as the lucrative field, and that would be very uh, risking in terms of medical emergency. If there's a severe illness or accidents happening, it can lead to massive medical bills, and especially if it's a costly long-term rehabilitation. And other than that, it's also because of the inflation of the cost of the living. Because global inflation constantly drives up. So the cost of grocery, utilities, and insurance, it probably would much more higher than their wage growth. So it's risking their own survivability, which going back to the parents' incentive. Now, in our case it's better to push your child into the lucrative field? Because first of all, if you prioritize lucrative field, right? We not completely abandon the non-lucrative prodigy skills they have, but we are prioritize them more into the lucrative field. They would have much more security. What does this mean? This means that they can have this much more high paying job than the non-lucrative field, have much more stable job which provides them the disposable income and time off needed to pursue their own hobbies, their own skills safely on the weekends or on their day off. So they can still have time to fulfill their own passions. Secondly, if they are an average Joe, as the protein says, in the lucrative field, it doesn't completely mean that they're going to have a small pay job. Several lucrative fields offer high pay with excellent benefits, even for average employees who doesn't have to have an elite academic background. And because we won't be prioritizing non-lucrative, we can we put much more effort into this skill it needs to learn for the lucrative field that they job going to need. And even if they eventually try to pursue their passion in the end, and if they fail because of the criteria I mentioned before, they still have a good backup to fall into, which have a good paying job to sustain their life. Thank you.